Alrighty, welcome back to another Alpha X replay cast. As we are here for the DreamHack Valencia. Gonna be the playoffs round of 24. And starting here at the bottom left, we have our beautiful blue Zerg player. She's from Shopify Rebellion. It is Scarlett.
That's right, and her opponent over in the top right corner of the map, also from Shopify Rebellion, it is our red Protoss HARSTEM.
So since both of these players are on the same team, gonna be a little bit sucky as they're gonna have to eliminate one another. As once the playoff starts, it's gonna be a single elimination bracket. So this is pretty much you either win or go home.
Yeah, especially because both players are pretty popular with the StarCraft community, I'd say. You know, we've got the Queen of Blades on one hand, and then on the other hand we have HARSTEM, who is currently making a pretty big YouTuber name for himself, you know, just pumping out content.
You know, I believe it was last year of a DreamHack summer. I was able to, or had the blessing of running production on the ESL Stream B channel, and I was able to kind of follow along with Cats and HARSTEM. And I've always thought that HARSTEM was a great, caster, but it's another thing to, be up front and to see it in live. It's kind of like, it reminds you, like, you think of your favorite artists and they're good, they're great on the CD, but, or I guess nobody really plays CD anymore, but play on, like, Spotify or iTunes. But when you see them up live and in the same room, it's kind of a different experience.
Yeah, definitely. They also have that saying, you should not meet your heroes, but in this case it worked out.
Yeah, they were pretty cool and chill guys.
Yeah, nice. Especially because he is, now contending with top level players. It's pretty amazing to see, to have that analytical side in the casting, in the YouTube videos, and then also to be able to walk the walk, to play the game.
Yeah, that is quite tough. Usually the idea is that once you become a caster, you're considered like washed up and not able to play, but players like HARSTEM, and even a couple of years ago with TY, proving that that's not the case, that you can still cast professionally as well as play on the highest of levels.
Yeah, definitely. Alright, so everything looks pretty standard so far. We see HARSTEM opting to go up to 2 oracles, possibly a third, but more importantly, he's going for that standard quick third. Oh, but it looks like the Lings are going to try to get up all in their faces. The Adept is... Oh, wow, the Oracle is actually forced home as there are enough Lings to kill the Adept, but not enough to contest the Nexus. So maybe the Lings were a little bit early, but they did sort of delay the Nexus.
Yeah, they got the Adept, they got a Probe as well. Force the Pulsar Beam energy back at home instead of at Scarlett's side of the base. So yeah, she's going to be able to get the Queens up, get the Spore Crawlers up, and just carry on.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when I'm making Spore Crawlers, it really, I can feel the financial investment weighing on me. I'm like, oh, that's like 75 minerals on top of the 50 that I already spent on on the drone. Speaking of which, very nice Spore Crawler micro, making sure that that drone is not lost. But look at that, the Queen also taking a little bit of damage. So that's another thing. I always underestimate the damage that Oracles deal. It just feels like in an instant they can zap down a unit or something like that. But HARSTEM coming back in here. Oh, not quite able to get that Queen. Ooh, Scarlett putting down that 4th right in the nick of time before the Oracles can get to it.
Yeah, so a little bit of poking, but I gotta say, not the greatest finds for these oracles. Scarlett has done a great job thus far in terms of keeping her drones safe, not taking too much damage. But looks like we have a little bit of a interesting stalker move out.
Yeah, what do you think of this? I feel like it's a little bit abnormal, but it also feels like HARSTEM is just sort of taking that opportunity, judging that Scarlett was not able to get a Roach Warren, or, you know, opted not to get a Roach Warren, which, of course, as we know, is because she's going up to +1 lings. So, I don't know, this could actually be a little dangerous for HARSTEM if he continues on the Stalker path.
Yeah, like ideally you wouldn't move out with that small of a stalker squad, but then as I realized, you know, he does have 3 oracles, so I guess even if the lings try to surround the stalkers, those oracles should be able to zap away those lings. So I guess you know, all in all, he was able to get the force to cancel on that hatchery. So all in all, I think it worked out for him.
Now, this is pretty interesting. He's getting a proxy gateway, kind of where one of Scarlett's prospective 5th, 6th bases would be. And look at this. So it's actually going to be a bit of a trade scenario. We've got the Stalkers coming into the 5th base, or 4th base, and they're about to start working on it. At the same time, the Lings are going to come into the 3rd base of HARSTEM, working on that shield battery, working on these probes. A lot of them start following. A couple of Zealots are warped in, but they're not going to be enough to handle these Lings. Now, the Lings at the front are going to try to deal with these Stalkers. There's not quite enough. They will be forcing back the Stalkers and the Oracles for now, but at the cost of 20 probes, GG is called. HARSTEM is going to leave this game.
Alright, so in the last game was pretty much a lot of lings versus a lot of stalkers.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the end, you know, mass lings do beat out mass stalkers. So Scarlett was able to take that relatively quickly. Was a little bit of a shocking end. Well, I guess I wouldn't be say shocking end, but it was kind of a little bit of an abrupt end. I was expecting like a long macro game of some sort, because both of these players, I would say, are pretty finesse in the macro long game.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of felt like we didn't really get to see either player's actual strengths in this matchup. You know, HARSTEM did end up going for Blink sort of later into the game, but he did have that pretty interesting move out, which I think kind of gave Scarlett a hint to be like, hey, if I just keep making lings, I can probably just win right here, right now. And so that's exactly what she did, just taking advantage of her +1 melee upgrade and then moving across the map. So it didn't really feel like there was sort of any path towards a later sort of macro game. So hopefully we get to see that later on in this series.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, it looks like it's starting off that way because Scarlett has pulled all of her drones from the Vespine Geyser, so just getting that 100 gas to research that link speed upgrade, and then the rest just to drones and overlords. And also queens, of course.
Yeah, what do you think about that? It's pretty much a guarantee that Scarlett is not going for anything like a lair or anything, right? Because when you are trickle mining gas, it still kind of gives you sort of a layer timing.
Yeah, it's pretty much a very... It could go either way. It could be a very macro kind of oriented opening where she's just getting those, you know, mining those extra minerals to just pump out more drones, or she might just go for an all-out just mass ling attack. But I don't see a lot of overlords on the production tab, which tells me, yeah, she's not going for a all-in. She's probably going for just very much a lot of drones and overlords and queens, and just you know, just playing the long game, at least to the mid game.
Right. Yeah, everything's pretty standard. We see 2 queens being pumped out at a time. The first oracle has popped, and so it will be headed directly across the map. Very nice scouting with the lings. Scarlett making sure that she is on top of everything, although she is not quite able to catch the 3rd nexus that just went down over at the... Okay, no, she did spot it. The Adept is going to be in place to defend it. But I just want to highlight Scarlett's Overlord placement. So she basically has full vision of her side of the map. And so obviously this would be denied by something like Phoenixes or Void Rays. But because HARSTEM went for Oracles, she is going to be able to keep those Overlords in place for pretty much the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's a really important tool to have to, spread those Overlords freely. I mean, this is one of the maps that does have Watchtower, so it does provide the extra vision. But besides the Watchtower, you don't really have anything else. So always nice to kind of place your Overlords there, just to scout any War Prism drops or where the Oracles are flying in from.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, that one Oracle so low on health, the two are going to rotate down south, the two with higher health. They're going to go up into the main, try to see what they can find. Yep, so going back into the third, a bit of a misclick. The Queens were A-moving on the hatchery for just a second. Fourth base has been taken. Yeah, it looks like we're headed into, at the very least, the mid-game. We see the Twilight about to finish. Who knows, maybe HARSTEM is going to go for Blink again? I would be surprised if he didn't, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he has so much Stalkers that I can't imagine anything else besides Blink.
Right. Although, I do have to say, I like what Scarlett's doing. She did end up going for +1 melee once again. She's just pumping out a bunch of lings, so map control is definitely going her favor after this first little skirmish. I think HARSTEM kind of gets that sense too. His Stalkers did, in fact, see those lings, so he might just end up backing off for now.
Yep, looks like he's backing out. And this is probably the smart move because, there's so much more lings on the production. +1 melee is about to finish as well. It's going to be quite difficult to see any damage being done by these couple of Stalkers. Currently only 11 Stalkers versus the 62 lings with +1 about to finish.
Right. See, this is such an interesting position. You don't usually see the Protoss up so many workers over the Zerg in a macro game like this. It looks like Scarlett is finally going to pull the trigger. She does stream all of the leans into the third base, catching the Stalkers a little bit out of position. So that is a little bit unfortunate. They are going to target down that pylon and start working on the shield battery, or at least try to. Some of them do get caught by the hold position probes. So the rest of the Stalkers are going to head on home, but I don't know. I feel like maybe if Scarlett just tries to, I don't know, A-move on all the Stalkers, then she might actually win?
Yeah, I mean, I think she definitely has the numbers, but I think the problem is that she's too afraid of those Oracles, which are rocking a lot of energy for those pulsar beams. And it's unfortunate because Scarlett invested so much larva into these speedlings, and she's really need to do something because she's behind in the worker count, and that's not a good sign for a Zerg playing against a Protoss.
What I do like is that she has tried to keep up in the base count. She's reaching a fifth base. Oh no, I'm sorry. The fifth base is actually completed. These Oracles are doing a lot of work in scaring away the lings, but I like what HARSTEM is doing. He's also getting charged, recognizing that this is going to be Scarlett's playstyle of choice for now, and just sort of adapting to it.
Yeah, I mean, really, there's not a lot of options for HARSTEM to just move out, unless he has or builds enough the correct units to defend against these lings, these speedlings, whether it's a Colossus or whether it's Storm of some sort. So right now I think he's doing the smart thing. He's just sitting back, playing it very defensively, playing a little bit turtley, and just just establishing and taking that fourth base there on the, I guess, 6 to 7 o'clock base there, and just making sure that he builds in the Archon. Oh yeah, Archons as well. Those are really good against a lot of lings.
Oh, definitely. What I find so interesting is that I can't help but theorize, what if Scarlett was going for roaches right now? Now hold that thought, because these lings found a little bit of a timing. They did manage to kill off that one Archon, but I don't think it was worth it. They're kind of They're a little bit stuck. Look at them running around. Oh man, now they're gonna find themselves walled inside of HARSTEM's third base. So now who is trapped with who, right? I mean, all of the Lings are gonna go down. However, a bunch of probes are also going down. So 10 probes, that, you know, that was a loss that could have been prevented. But yeah, it looks mostly defended for now. More Lings are on the production tab. So this is, I mean, I'm kind of intrigued. You know, I have to admit, I'm kind of intrigued. I did not expect this kind of Lingbane heavy playstyle over in the mid game going into the late game.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Scarlett trying to desperately buy enough time to make use of that infestation pit. I believe she also got the hive. Yeah, she does get the hive, although it looks like her main base is getting ravaged by these charge lots. But the thing about this playstyle with mass Lings is like you want to buy enough time for the hit hive tech to kick in. However, HARSTEM not giving Scarlett the time of day, and here we go.
Wow, the Zealots are still doing a little bit of damage over in the main base, but over on the bottom, a bunch of Banelings were caught by that stasis trap. Stasis ward? I forgot what it's called. But yeah, it looks like both players are losing a few workers. 5 probes went down, but I'd say more drones went down in that skirmish. So, you know, HARSTEM making very good use of his warp prism, just continuously warping in Zealots into the main base.
Yeah, and that warp prism is still alive, so if HARSTEM wants to go for a second round, he can definitely do so. There are no anti-air. Right now, Scarlett is mainly going for ground units in those Lings, Banelings, and those Roaches, even adding a Ultralisk then to go for Ultralisk. So yeah, nothing is going to really help, or none of the armies of Scarlett is going to be able to snipe down that Warp Prism. Warp Prism is going to be so annoying for Scarlett to deal with.
Oh man, for sure. But the thing is, Scarlett has been able to max out. HARSTEM is struggling to get over 125 supplies. So who knows? Maybe once the next wave of Lings and Banes are, you know, traded out, and then once Scarlett gets into Ultra Tech, I don't know. It could get a little bit dicey for HARSTEM now. He is defending adequately against this first wave of Banelings with the Archons up in front. There are Immortals, however, so they will be able to tank a lot of damage along with the Archons. Some of the Banelings, oh man, a lot of the Banelings just roll straight through. Shield Battery Overcharge was popped, but it did not matter. 24 probes went down, so I think, you know, HARSTEM, he needs to be able to adapt to the playstyle at all of his bases. He did so adequately at the third base, but the fourth base, I mean, he just doesn't have the money for it, right? He's not able to wall adequately.
Yeah, I mean, imagine there was a wall in that choke. I mean, all those Banelings would have been much difficult for Scarlett to connect those Banelings on top of those probes. So a little bit unfortunate for HARSTEM. But you know what, HARSTEM trying to do his best as he's still keeping up with that Warp Prism harass. But like you said, I mean, the supplies says it all. It seems like Scarlett is getting further and further ahead. And oh, actually, got to kill those wings there.
A little awkward. The Zealots are like, I could stay, but I was ordered to leave.
I mean, it's the worst, man. If you're like, you think you killed all the Lings, and then like a minute later,
there's a couple left.
Yeah, and
yeah, they have a adrenal gland, so they just like shred through all of your probes. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of shredding through, looks like these Ultras are gonna try to chomp through, but not off of creep. Scarlett is gonna retreat for a little bit. Those Roaches, though, it's so interesting, right? She's going straight to Ultra Tech instead of staying on something like Ravagers, and I think that's a really interesting decision. I mean, I'm not complaining. I like it a lot. These Archons up front are tanking a lot of damage and dishing out a lot. First few Ultras are just going to melt, so wow, what a good trade for HARSTEM. He's going to start kiting the 3 Immortals back as well, but I don't know, the writing's kind of on the wall, right? Scarlett is the one with the bank. HARSTEM doesn't really have much of his own. There are some very, very good Zealot Warpins over in the main base, forcing the Lings back once again, getting good positions behind the mineral line for now. But yeah, if this continues on this current trajectory, all that Scarlett needs to do is keep trading out, keep building up her high-tech army, and eventually she will overrun HARSTEM, I think.
Yeah, I mean, gotta give it up to HARSTEM though. He did make it look like he was coming back. The problem is he was able to build up to a very powerful army, and was able to trade very efficiently, close up the supply gap. But I mean, like you said, Scarlett has the resources and all those valuable units that HARSTEM was HARSTEM had in his army just a minute ago is completely gone. I mean, right now he's trying to desperately replenish those lost archons and those immortals, but it takes time. And
it does, yeah.
Yeah, and the more time that goes on, Scarlett, she's going to be mining more. She's got more bases, and yeah, I think Scarlett should be comfortable, but you don't want to underestimate a scary Protoss ball. In the 200 versus 200 army, it could definitely go horrible. So yeah, Scarlett still wants to be a little bit careful not to trade really horribly in this next engagement here.
That's right, she did form a bit of a concave as the Protoss was caught retreating, so a lot of those Archons are going to get popped. Some of the Ultras are also getting popped as well. Look at those Immortals, I mean, how many kills do they have? One of them has 13, another has 20 kills, and I guarantee you a few of them were in fact those big, bulky Ultras. However, we do see Corruptors on the field now. I want to say that maybe Scarlett got them just to deal with the War Prism. That would be so funny. But she is going into a Broodlord tech with the Greater Spire as well. So for now, she just needs to hold on with... Well, I mean, I say hold on as she's pushing back the Immortals. But yeah, all she needs to do is hold this off and then she can get Broodlords and... Well, I mean, the game is already hers, right? So she's going to go up 2-0 in this best of 5.
So we have a commanding 2 elite here for Scarlett. And it's a little bit unfortunate because it did seem for a moment in the previous game that HARSTEM might have gotten Scarlett on her toes, as she went for a lot of lanes but didn't quite find too much damage with it initially. However, as the game progressed on, was able to kind of start finding more damage, whether it's the Ling run-bys or whether it was the Baneling run-bys. And all of a sudden, you look at the supply, and she's like way ahead. And I think that kind of is a testament to the macro of Scarlett.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed a lot of games, now increasingly more at the pro level, not just, at the amateur level, but what you get is sort of a defiance of the typical expectation that, like, for example, oh, the Zerg needs to be up 1 base against other races. The Protoss needs to have 10 more drones at this stage of the game than their Terran opponent, that kind of thing. And it's just, it's kind of interesting to see how Scarlett was able to at least take advantage of her high army count with her Lings and use that to put pressure on HARSTEM, and then behind that drone up way past HARSTEM's probe count. So in a way, it kind of felt like her drone count did not actually matter in that moment because she was able to just leverage her army units in such a way that she could come back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of very reminiscent of Scarlett, or not Scarlett, Serral's playstyle, where even if he's behind in terms of the worker count, for some reason you just feel like, yeah, he can get back into it very easily. And I think that's what kind of happened in the previous game with Scarlett.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we'll see a repeat of it here. I mean, who knows? Third time's a charm, right? She might go for that quick +1 melee once again. Of course, we have HARSTEM opting to open for an Oracle first, yet again, so nothing too out of the ordinary just yet.
Alright, looks like a nice little Overlord placement there on the natural of HARSTEM. This Stalker should, start coming back home, though. You never know if Scarlett gonna run up with a couple of Lings as she did in the first game, where she was able to get a depth kill as well as a pro kill.
Very standard a very crisp, I should say, timing by HARSTEM. Usually the Protoss wants to go for a 3-minute 50-second third Nexus against Zerg if you're going for a macro game, and that is exactly what HARSTEM got.
Actually, secretly, you know, all Protosses would love to get their dirt base at like the 1-minute mark, but
yeah,
those damn Zergs won't let us, you know.
I know, right? Stupid lings. Alright, these two oracles are gonna try to... Oh! Okay, they're not being controlled just yet. HARSTEM... Oh. Okay. Oh. Kinda giving me a heart attack there. That was close. A little bit of miss micro. I think he was concentrated on the lings over at his third base. Yeah, definitely the lings at the third base, because they actually do take down a Stalker, managing to find an opening to deal a little bit of damage before that shield battery is done. So... yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on at the screen at any given moment. I mean, I'm sure a lot of our viewers already know this, but StarCraft is just so difficult. And that's one of the beautiful things about it, is how difficult it is. Like, the best players in the world have to play like machines. They have to be so robotic in their playstyle, otherwise they can't keep up, you know?
Yeah, you can definitely make a case that StarCraft 2 is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, esports game out there. It takes a lot of APM and skills and strategy to be successful in this game here. Now look at this.
Speaking of strategy,
yeah.
I love it. We got a lot of lings, but we also got a bunch of queens coming across the map, buried over in those dropper lords. Now, on the other hand, HARSTEM does have charge with his zealots, so they will be a little bit tanky, but there is not enough here to defend against the lings. They're going to have to retreat to the safety of the third Nexus, so this is going to be an interesting pairing. I don't actually know how this is going to work out. Okay, they're going to start dropping creep. The first round of zealots are going to take a lot of damage. Lings are jumping on top of the third Nexus. The queens are doing their best to add some DPS. Oh, I'd love to see some transfuses over on the lings, but that would be kind of useless.
Yeah, so far, HARSTEM doing a pretty decent job. I mean, keeping a lot of his charge bot alive, but looks like the roach reinforcements might start changing the tide, maybe. Although, as I say that, more warpins will go ahead and push this back, and HARSTEM, he is going to hold, and this is going to be a really great hold for HARSTEM, because Scarlett, she invested a lot into this.
She did. I mean, those dropper lords are not cheap, you know, and all of that, all of the lings that just kind of got cut down by the zealots before they could do any real damage. I don't think a single probe went down, actually. Now, hold that thought, because this Warp Prism is getting dangerously low, and it actually gets sniped down by the queens. Excellent queen positioning by Scarlett, able to scout the Warp Prism with her spotter Overlord. And now this push is kind of stopped cold, stopped dead in its tracks. I think HARSTEM, maybe he wanted to do some sort of two-pronged, or maybe he wanted to bring the Warp Prism back to start warping in with his main army, but because it got gunned down, he is forced to retreat back on home.
Yeah, and he's gonna have to remake that Warp Prism, which is gonna take some extra time and also some resources. It's gonna line up nicely in terms of his Dark Shrine timing, so maybe once the Warp Prism does reach his Scarlet side of the base, he can start warping in those BTs to maybe snipe off that fourth base there. But Scarlett, once again, being very proactive with her Overlord drops, will be able to manage to get out. Now, I wonder if, you know, if it was me, if I was in this HARSTEM shoes, I would have started making a Phoenix out of that Stargate. And because you know, dealing with drop lords it's just so annoying.
It is, yeah. Zerg players everywhere saying, now you know how I feel against Terran.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like a Stalker is going to be kept at home. Oh, okay, that Dropper Lord is not going to try to do anything. However, there is a pretty large Roach Ravager army over at the front, taking advantage of the creep that was spread earlier. Bunch of Zealots are going to try to force them back for the time being. But I don't know, I feel like Scarlett might just be able to jump on top of it and keep kiting. I mean, charge lots, they are really good, don't get me wrong, but if you kite adequately with roaches, you will take care of them pretty quickly. Now, these 8lings are also going to start working on the fourth base. pulling the Zealots out of position at the same time. HARSTEM is going to be pulling Scarlett's army out of position as well as he starts warping in over at the fourth base location.
Alright, looks like both of these players are in harass mode. They're just trying to find any openings, but doesn't quite have enough to go just across the map and just outright kill their opponent. So this is where the strategy comes in.
Yeah, another pretty big warp in over at the main base. At the same time, Oracles are going to come into the main, the fourth base as well. Start dealing a little bit of drone damage, but overall, I agree with you. Like, we're in a sort of power-up mode, power-up stage, if you will, for both of our players. Just working on those upgrades, trying to round out their tech, add on a few units, that kind of thing. Speaking of which, Scarlett is going for a Spire. Now, this Spire timing is a bit more aggressive than last time. What do you think? I feel like if she started going for mutas right now, that might be pretty exciting.
Yeah, this is a great map to go mutalist in because it's such a big map that it takes a couple more extra time for the Protoss army to go across the map, and there's just so many areas in which you could fly, you know, throughout the bases of the Protoss, and it's great for base trades as well if HARSTEM wants to go for that, and yeah, it helps with the War Prism for sure because it can snipe it. Right. You know, throughout this whole game, that's what Scarlett has been pretty much facing. It's just a bunch of War Prism harass, and with those mutalisks, she can definitely shut that down.
Yeah, for sure. HARSTEM, however, also on top. Ooh, a lot of those Zealots do get wiped out by those Banelings. Pretty well. See, that's the thing. I was about to say a good trade for Scarlett, but Banelings do cost gas and charge lots do not. So I don't actually know if that was a good trade. I think that because Scarlett's macro is so strong, especially in this game, she's getting her 5th base up and everything. I think she's more than happy about that. It's better than detonating on top of Archons, which they do seem to be doing. Excellent round of force fields are going to hold off the majority of this Ravager Lingbane for the time being, forcing them back onto creep. But I wanted to say earlier that HARSTEM did manage to scout out the Spire, and so he did start making Phoenixes in response, and so because of that, Scarlett is actually going to go straight up to Corruptors. Now, we did see a cute little Dropper Lord harass. We do see some of that over at the natural base as well. In total, another 10 probes falling. Man, it would probably be so annoying to play against Scarlett.
Yeah, this is where, you know, Scarlett excels. Just being very, very kind of technically sound. You know, kind of defending at home, but also going commencing with the Baneling drops, and this is behind her really great macro skills, and this is what makes her such a great player. Right now, she's got a quite large army here, consisted of Lings, Banelings, Roach and Ravagers, but there is a lot of Archons for HARSTEM. Boy, oh boy, and a lot of Storms as well. So Scarlett got to be careful not to engage just carelessly.
Yeah, I do like the inclusion of a bunch of roaches, making sure that those Archons don't just melt all of the Lingbane. Okay, looks like a bit of a skirmish going over on the northeast side as well. Some Lings, and then we've also got the main army down here to the south. Okay, so it looks like Scarlett is trying to angle for a fight. Like you said, a lot of Storms are available. Look at those High Templar. 4 of them have almost full energy, so that's what, like, over a dozen Storms, I bet. But yeah, it looks like the Archons and the Immortals recognize that Scarlett is a little bit split. Well, both players are split, which is a pretty interesting move, just trying to out-tax each other's APM. Greater Spire also on the way, so HARSTEM is, you know, able to hold off the Zerg for now and try to work his way up to a higher supply.
Both of these players are nearing that 200 versus 200 supply. It's going to come down to these Storms as well as Banelings. Nice start here.
Aggressive Storm positioning. Yeah, excellent start. He's able to keep pushing back Scarlett even up to creep as well. It looks like a Ling run-by might be getting set up. Banelings are going to go into the 4th base, but at the same time, a bunch of Roach Ravager is going to start falling to this main force.
Oh, actually the Banelings focusing on the Nexus instead. A little bit of a misclick there, or micro.
Yeah, that was a little awkward. That wasn't the best use of those storm. Hold that thought. Sorry. A lot of storms are going down over at the front, taking care of a lot of banelings. But yeah, like you said earlier, those banelings over in the run-by location weren't doing that much. Now it looks like the lings and the roaches will be able to finally clean up the main. Oh, hold that thought. These 3 immortals are holding very strong. Stalkers are going to reinforce to take care of the roaches, and I do like that move a lot. HARSTEM is just going to keep up the pressure. This is pretty intense.
Yeah, 5 immortals. Well, actually, make that 4 immortals still standing here. However,
oh man,
more roaches on the production, so HARSTEM is on a timer here. Scarlett gonna morph in a bunch of Ravagers from these weekend roaches, and you know what? All in all, the game does stabilizes. HARSTEM will take that 4th, or actually, you know what? 5th base here. 5th base at the 3 o'clock position, and wow, a little bit of an intense couple of minutes there. But all in all, it's still anyone's game.
Yeah, especially since HARSTEM has 11 more probes than his Zerg opponent. That is fascinating to me, especially because Scarlett is kind of stuck on this Roach Ravager low-tier sort of army, getting more lings. But I just have to note, look at the upgrades tab. Scarlett has +2, +3, whereas HARSTEM only has +1 right now, so any sort of trade should go a little bit better in favor of Scarlett. Now she is going to try to start contesting this 5th base location. Will she be able to take it down? I don't think so. I think that there are enough immortals to at least hold off the Roach Ravager for now.
Yeah, that is, let's see here, 6 immortals. Also got 9 High Templars, so HARSTEM is going to be able to kind of zone out these roaches and Ravagers. The counter for them usually would be banelings. However, there are no banelings to speak of. Oh, actually, hold that thought. Cassacurs here. Apparently, there was a bunch on the bottom side as Scarlett was trying to plan for a flank with the banelings there.
That was not really a good trade for Scarlett. Those banelings, I don't think, maybe they were mishotkeyd or something, or maybe they were miscued, but only a handful of them went towards the 3rd base to start killing some probes. The rest of them did die to the Stalkers, so that was a pretty good trade for HARSTEM. Now HARSTEM is the one on the offensive, recognizing that his opponent is stuck on a lower tier army. Storms are going to hold back the Roach Ravager for now, but a bunch of Corruptors are on the production tab, and now the Broodlords are going to start morphing, so like you said, HARSTEM is a little bit on a timer right now.
Yeah, there's a good decent amount of Stalkers to help defend against those Broodlords, but you got to get underneath them, and that's kind of difficult when you have when there's a bunch of roaches and Ravagers with corrosive bows underneath those Broodlords. So yeah, HARSTEM is gonna have to try to outmaneuver Scarlett here, because the one thing about Broodlords are they're quite slow, and on the big map like this, you know, HARSTEM can definitely take advantage. Hit onto the right, hit onto the left. Just pull the Broodlords all over the place, and never engage the Broodlords until you have enough Tempest, which HARSTEM is trying to tech up to as he's throwing down his Stargates as well as the Fleet Beacon.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of wondering, a couple of High Templar are going to get lost for free. 6th base of HARSTEM is going to come under fire. It looks like HARSTEM is just going to go ahead and give it up. Understands that the Broodlords are a little bit out of his range just for now. Going to keep kiting and actually circling back around with the Stalkers. I don't know if I like that move. You know, it's pretty risky, right? We see the Lings and the Banes coming in from the top of the creep. Not really ideal. Are there going to be more storms? Is there even? Yes, there is. One more storm is going to push back the Ravagers for now, but we have 3 Tempests producing at once. So we are definitely going to head into the late game here on Cosmic Sapphire.
Yeah, definitely. Both of these players pretty much engaging in tier 3 units right now, as we are heading to about the 19-minute mark. Looks like HARSTEM will try to attack this left side base, but good job by Scarlett doing some preemptive spine crawlers to help defend. Again, Broodlords are slow, so you kind of have to rely on spine crawlers to help defend on the ground, or maybe lurkers if you have enough gas for that.
Right. You know, speaking of which, I was just thinking to myself, what if Scarlett had indeed gone for the Hydra Lurker sort of tech instead? Now, you know, for people like me, it might be a little bit troublesome because if you try to micro Ravagers and Lurkers on the same hotkey, you know, one of them takes priority over the other. But I'm just curious, you know, for somebody of Scarlett's level, why did she choose to go for Broodlords instead? Maybe it's because she wanted to be able to crush that Immortal Archon army and just stop it in its tracks rather than risk losing a bunch of Lurkers or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Usually Broodlords is the counter for that army composition that HARSTEM has. However, that could all change once, you know, these Tempests and even the Mama ship are being added as well. But I don't think it's gonna be out in time before this next attack commences. But no Corruptors. Oh my god, these Tempests can actually give chase.
Oh, I think HARSTEM recognizes it. Does he? He's gonna start giving chase to the... Yep, okay, so he is gonna move on forward. 13 Corruptors on the production tab. This is an excellent reaction by Scarlett, but she will start losing a handful of workers and a handful of army units. A Zealot run by... Oh, wow, look at that. Those Zealots went flying. Wow. But yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. A lot more High Templar over in the back, accompanying the Tempests and banking up energy. So those Storms are going to be key because, of course, Storms are perfect for countering any Zerg Death Ball. You know, whether that be Ravagers and Lings or a Ball of Corruptors, which, of course, are required by the Zerg to actually even start dealing with the Tempests.
Yeah, but you know what? HARSTEM is going to be in the dilemma because there are Infestors being made. So does he use those High Templars for Storm, or does he use them to feedback those Infestors? It's going to be a little bit of a choice there for HARSTEM to decide.
Now, I don't know off the top of my head. I believe feedback range is significantly higher than Storm range, right? So, I don't know. It feels like if you see Infestors, and if they come within range, it could be a pretty simple choice, but on the other hand, you've also got the threat of the Broodlords, which themselves also have a pretty long range.
Yeah, and also you can maybe even storm the Corruptors if they're balled up and bunched
right.
up. So if those Corruptors are gone, those Tempests can pretty much chase down those Broodlords. I think with the amount of Broodlords that Scarlett has, it doesn't seem ideal to attack it because it's just going to take too long for all the Broodlords to die before the rest of the ground force, like the Lings, Ravagers, and the Banelings get on top of yours. So, you know, if you can kind of storm the Corruptors, the Tempest can focus fire on the Broodlords while the rest of your the Protoss Ground Army can face up against the other Ground Army of Scarlett.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like HARSTEM is going to start moving on out, just clearing creep one tumor at a time. He is adding on 2 Oracles at once. I like that move a lot. Oracles, of course, have a lot of utility when it comes to not just the early game, but also the late game, you know, able to basically ping the creep, ping the armies, that kind of thing. Adding in a little bit of DPS as well, but most importantly, or not most, but more importantly, putting down those stasis traps, which are, of course, lethal in fights like these. Now, another Zealot run by is not quite able to find as much damage. The Ravagers and Banelings are going to give chase. At the same time, we have the Spine Crawlers buying enough time, but yeah, this is settling into a very sort of late game scenario. We have both kinds of late game Zerg spellcasters out on the field. We have those disgusting Infestors on the ground, and then we have those annoying Vipers over in the air. So this is going to be pretty interesting to see which player slips up first.
Alright, looks like HARSTEM sprinkling in a little bit of DTs, but doesn't quite find too much damage. And here we go. This is the classic HARSTEM late game where he just places pylons and cannons and shield batteries in the middle of the map, kind of inching closer and closer. We've seen this before in the past when he would face against Cero on the ladder, and it would just go into this epic long game. And this is where he excels at. But in the meantime, it looks like Scarlett will hit the 6 o'clock side. We'll force a recall here.
Wow, forcing a recall. Oh, never mind. I thought it was going to be like more than a couple of Archons. But speaking of which, I mean, basically does force the recall on the entire army. We have the Mobo, okay, I'm sorry, the Mothership, and the Tempest and the High Templar pulled back as well. So buying a little bit more time for Scarlett to really get up to that high tier army that she really wants.
Okay, looks like HARSTEM is gonna lose his positioning in the middle of the map because of that attack. Has to retreat his entire army as well as the recall. But also on Scarlett's side, I do like this decision to go for Ultralisk then, because you need something to deal with those High Templars. And
right.
if you can kind of fungo those High Templars and Broodlord them, then that's good. But you know, with the Tempest protecting them, you need some other way, and the other way is to send in those Ultralisks to snipe them down before they can get the storm off. So
right. Man, look at this. This is, I mean, so interesting. There are so many moving parts with each army, right? We've got the basically the lowest micro potential in the carriers, and then we've also got the lowest micro potential in the Broodlords. Hold that thought. A lot of feedbacks are going to take care of like a couple of infestors. That was not so good. Scarlett is going to get a little bit of revenge by sending out preemptive fungals, catching out, what is that, almost all of the High Templars, so not too bad. However, she is starting to lose. She is starting to bleed out a lot of those Broodlords and Corruptors. Viper's not quite able to find an angle because the High Templar are able to feedback them before they come in. So this is going to cost her a base.
yeah, both of these players are running out of bases, so any bases that you can colonize is going to be really important, as both of these players are trying to play out this long drawn out game here.
Yeah, I mean, look at how well HARSTEM is playing it. He's basically kiting back from long range. Ooh, oh no, that is not the engagement that you want with those Corruptors. You need to be coming in from the side, away from where the ground armies are. A bunch of Archon shots are going to land. That Mothership is doing some work with the spell just now. But most importantly, the storms. Those storms are absolutely killing the Corruptors. The Archons are going to force the rest of them back. I think this is game. I think that Scarlett thought that she had enough to just trade out, but look at her bank. It's basically gone, and she's down something like 50 supply over her Protoss opponent, so this is not looking good for her at all.
Yeah, with the lack of bank, there's really not a lot of options for Scarlett besides just retreat, go for one last stand, but this is going to be quite tough, as she is going to be really far behind, more carriers in the production, and HARSTEM even preemptively thinking, oh, maybe Scarlett is going to remax on Corruptors to clear out the rest of my air army. Going to actually make Void Race to prepare, but unbeknownst to him, there's really not a lot of bank here for Scarlett to remake a lot of Corruptors to deal with the Sky Toss army that HARSTEM is rocking. Ooh, nice little play here, neuroparasiting some of the Archons.
Now, a lot of probes did go down just now. I believe that Scarlett sent a massive Ling counterattack over to HARSTEM's side of the map, which is good, right? You always need to be able to do damage like that. But I don't know if it's going to keep her in the game. I mean, just look at the supply, right? We have Scarlett struggling to get above 125 supply. And then, of course, we have HARSTEM kind of on the cusp of maxing out once again, getting a carrier in addition to an Oracle, just sort of rounding out his Skytoss army. So this is not really looking good for Scarlett.
And now she's got to even deal with BTs. Right now, she's definitely doesn't want to spend her resources on Overseers, but she's going to be forced to make some in HARSTEM. Look at that. Look at how many carriers there is. 7 carriers, 4 Tempests, 4, actually down to 3 High Templars.
Oh man. I feel for Scarlett. I mean, any Zerg player, anybody who's even tried playing Zerg, probably knows that this is how a lot of games go. You know, you've got that massive Protoss death ball and you're just unable to deal with it. You know, maybe you take a bad trade or something and then the follow-up is just even worse. It looks like that's going to be the case here on game number 3. So could this be the start of a reverse sweep? I don't know.
Well, it's looking very likely that it could be the start, as HARSTEM is sitting very comfortable. But as I say that, you know, the amount of bases are trickling down, and there's still one more at the top side that maybe Scarlett can retake. If she can kind of prolong the game to the point where she can kind of mass up a lot of spellcaster units and just go for a really beautiful engagement, then maybe there's some sort of hope. I mean, she still has a lot of corruptors. I don't know, but I'm just trying to grasp at any sort of hope that Scarlett can have.
Yeah, for sure. It does not look like that's going to be the case, though. I mean, HARSTEM is just working methodically through every base that he can find, making sure that the Zealots are protecting the High Templar, that the High Templar are protecting the carriers and Archons are being paired up, that kind of thing. So, I don't know, this is looking worse and worse for Scarlett. Now, Snoopy, I do have to ask, as the Zerg, how would you deal with this? You just need to keep rotating and make sure that your Corruptors find an angle where the ground army isn't, right?
I mean, the difficult part about that is that right now, if you kind of retreat for the time being and HARSTEM just kill hatcheries after hatcheries, then, you know, pretty soon Scarlett is going to be kind of cornered. So right now, I think Scarlett's best bet is just to just wait it out for the infestors to reach, you know, the maximum amount of energy, and just hope and pray that HARSTEM just screws up one huge engagement, and, you know, Scarlett can maybe possibly close up the supply. But it's gonna be there's a lot of what if, you know, there's a lot of ifs in that scenarios. And here we go, Scarlett is gonna go ahead and start targeting fire on those carriers. Looks like the majority of the carriers are done, but there's just nothing left here on the ground for Scarlett, and HARSTEM, he is gonna take his first point on the scoreboard.
Man, that last game, I felt so bad for Scarlett because you could clearly see that she thought she had enough to just jump on the Protoss army. And I don't know, how do you feel about that, Snoopy? Are there scenarios where the Zerg can actually do that? Or do you just continuously need to trade as best you can against that Skytoss army?
You know, usually, and I'm just basing it off of previous Sero games, because I find that Sero is absolutely amazing in those scenarios. I think Scarlett really should have just waited for a bunch of Spore Callers and then engaged the Protoss army near the Spore Callers, because... Oh, what happened?
Yeah, just build up like... should we restart, or...?
Oh, what happened?
I don't know. I think my internet just cut out or something.
Okay.
But
yeah, we can start over. Yeah, no problem.
For sure. Sorry. Good thing it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Ready?
Yep. I'm ready. And here we are on the map of Tropical Sacrifice. Let me start that over. Okay.
For sure.
And here we are on the map of Tropical Sacrifice for game number 4. As we have spawning at the bottom left, our red Protoss winning the previous game and looking to tie up the score. It is HARSTEM.
And his opponent in the top right corner of the map, playing for the same team of Shopify Rebellion once again. It is our blue Zerg, Scarlett. So in that last game, we saw there was a moment where Scarlett thought that she had enough to just sort of jump on the Skytoss army, you know, sending forward the Corruptors, the Brute Lords, basically all of the army that she had. And of course, it just wasn't enough. You know, she got Storm, she got the Archons targeting her Corruptors, that kind of thing. So, in your opinion, do you think that there are scenarios where the Zerg will have enough to just jump on the Skytoss army and take care of all of it, all at once?
Yeah, there are certain scenarios. I mean, you know, and I'm just basing this off of previous several games, because I find that he is well equipped and very experienced in those type of scenarios. Usually he would just make a lot of spore crawlers, and he would try to engage the Protoss army near the spore crawlers. And I think the idea is that the spore crawlers would distract the air units of the Protoss, whether it's interceptors or Tempest or Void Rays, and then use of course those infestors to either fungal or narrow parasite some of the army. And the thing is that you got to dodge those storms, and it's a little bit of a dance of some sort. But there are definitely ways in which a Zerg can defeat that scary air toss kind of Protoss army.
Yeah, for sure. As a Zerg myself, I find myself getting pretty frustrated by it a lot of the time. It's like, hey, how can I send in my spellcasters when they can just get feedback by the High Templar, or when, how can I just send in my corruptors when they just get stormed? But, I can understand needing to dodge the storms and the Archons and that kind of thing. The thing that gets me is the feedback. It's just like, I don't know, I guess at that point it just becomes a micro battle between the two players.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that Zergs can also try to mitigate some of the feedback is to go for both Vipers and Infestors. However, it's quite difficult to use those spells, simultaneously in those huge fights, because you gotta micro so much stuff. You gotta micro the Brewlords to make sure that they don't just fly into their deaths. You gotta micro the Corruptors to focus fire on the air toss army, and then you gotta of course micro the Infestors to use the spells, and then as well as use the spells of the Viper. So there's so much things you gotta control, and it's quite difficult.
Right.
And I guess one of the ways in which Scarlett was trying to deal with the High Templars, since she didn't have all those units out, the spellcasters, is to use the Ultralisk. Just throw in a couple of Ultralisks. You don't need too much, and the Ultralisk ideally would get on top of the High Templars, and then as they're dead, you can move in with your Brood Lords and the rest of your other spellcasters.
Right. Well, it looks like both players are opening up pretty standard. It seems that HARSTEM is going back up to that 3 Oracle sort of playstyle that we've seen him do in actually every game in this series, I believe. On the other hand, we have Scarlett again going for that. Oh, wow, look at that micro. The Oracles are able to target down quite a few drones, 5 drones in total, so not too bad. Plus, the Oracles get out with full health. But yeah, Scarlett is going for the +1 melee once again.
Yeah, and I don't blame her. I mean, this is a great map for Lynx to run around and just to absolutely annihilate, everything. We saw it in one of the previous games, how Scarlett is so scary with her Lynx. Yeah, all in all, everything looks pretty normal. There are a lot of stalkers moving out once again for HARSTEM, so kind of a bit of a deja vu kind of strategy from HARSTEM.
Right.
Poking it with just a couple of stalkers.
And honestly, this might be enough to force it. Well, I don't know about a cancel, but they're definitely going to make Scarlett consider it, as the Queens are a little bit far back because the creep has not spread that way just yet. I believe Scarlett also put down a 5th base at the same time. So a lot of those minerals that she would have invested into Lings were actually invested into the new base, and so that actually will cause HARSTEM to force the cancel on the 4th base. So I guess it's a good thing that Scarlett took 2 at once.
Yeah, she was prepared. And she was trying to go for a counterattack with the Lings, and unfortunately wasn't able to find anything, so she was forced to cancel that hatchery there. I wonder if what would have happened if those speedlings were at home helping to defend along with the queens.
Yeah, these oracles are just going to start sharking around, trying to see whatever damage they can get, tagging some of the things in the natural. At the same time, though, Scarlett is going to go for a double-pronged harass, trying to force a cancel on the 4th base, as well as contesting this 3rd base a little bit. Yeah, this is a pretty good move, forcing the cancel on the 4th base.
Yeah, this is quite beautiful to watch. The Zerg player, you know, controlling 2 groups of lings. Almost kind of reminds you of like back in the day in the StarCraft Brood War, where Jaedong would just micro 2 groups of Mutalisks, where every other Zerg would just micro one huge group of Mutalisks. Jaedong was just so absolutely amazing that he can just micro 2 set of groups, and it's not easy because Mutalisk requires a lot of babysitting.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Man, Scarlett has just been on top of her Ling micro in this game, just continuously forcing the cancel on that 4th base. So I think, you know, if she keeps up this current trajectory, she is on track to win this game, simply because, I mean, HARSTEM has not been able to keep up in terms of the number of bases. However, he does have a healthy economy regardless. So this game is still anybody's to lose, but these oracles are... Ooh. Okay, so one oracle does finally go down. Okay, so it looks like we are setting up for a Roach Ling Bane attack over at the 4th base.
Yeah, 17 Banelings on the production tab, and oh, nice find here by the Phoenix. We'll catch one of the Baneling drops. Nice reaction time into the main base of HARSTEM, so suffer very minimal amount of damage. However, you know, Baneling drops not the most committed thing that you know the Zerg can do. So it only requires a couple of units, just 4 Banelings and the Overlord to drop.
Right, right. Oh, look at that Oracle working on the morphing Banelings over in the corner. But yeah, this Roach this Roachling Bane is posturing over at the 4th base for quite a little while. I think that Scarlett kind of senses that behind that wall there's going to be a very powerful storm-based army, so it's not easy to engage into that now. Oh, a decent set of force fields. They're not going to catch too much, however. They are going to force some Banelings forward. Ooh, okay, so they do trade out some Zealots as well. Nice tag, keeping track of the Banelings, which of course are the most lethal out of these units. Nice set of storms the Archons are going to tank for that first round. Roaches are going to start working their way in, but they're, again, not quite able to find that angle that they really want. There were some Banelings over at the 3rd base as well, but they didn't quite get as much damage done. So Scarlett is trying to keep HARSTEM contained in this game.
Yeah, the problem is that this is one of the maps that actually has a lot of choke areas. And that does bode well for HARSTEM, as he's able to force field as well as segment some of Scarlett's army, and has been able to beautifully utilize that storm to zone out Scarlett here. You can see Scarlett trying to commit, but then has to back off because of the storm.
Oh, look at that beautiful counter micro against those Banelings. Only 7 probes going down out of a total of, what, like 20 or so that were at that base. So a lot of Banelings go down for basically nothing, and Scarlett does have a bank, right? Let's not deny that, but her gas bank is shrinking little by little. She is getting a hive, which is good, but I don't know, now HARSTEM is feeling confident enough to put his army in front of the 4th base as well. Ooh, nice set of storms. Yeah, this is not looking too good for Scarlett, I would say.
Yeah, now she has to retreat back at home due to all these harasses. All her army is into the top left side, which opens entirely that right side, which is completely vulnerable. HARSTEM is going to get on top of it, killing 13 drones there. Might have even taken out that hatchery if he focus fires on it. But HARSTEM right now, he's the one that is putting on the harass when just a minute ago, Scarlett was the one that was constantly trying to attack HARSTEM. Oh, the tides have turned.
Oh, definitely. I mean, look at how many Roaches and Banelings are here to defend against that main Storm Force. There's basically nothing. At the same time, have a bunch of Zealots over on the main base being cleaned up eventually by the Lings, but we also have the Zealots and Archons to the south taking down Scarlett's 6th base, so things are not looking good. This is looking really, really scary for our Zerg player here.
Yeah, HARSTEM not ready to let his DreamHack Valencia dream die as he is pushing his way forward, marching his way through to victory. As the hatchery count has reset it to 4 for Scarlett, and things are just growing worse and worse. And here we go, HARSTEM gonna poke up forward.
Yeah, it honestly kind of feels like these Ravagers came too little too late. Of course, we do have that classic Ravager Lingbane style that Scarlett has not been playing in this series as much. Roaches are going to defend against these Zealots harassing the 3rd base, the straightaway 3rd base, but these Archons and Immortals are just doing work. They have nothing to kite, really. They're just moving forward. Never backwards. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they pack a lot of firepower, and Scarlett just doesn't seem to have any answer for it as HARSTEM inches closer and closer. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going and headed into a game number 5. Beautiful play by HARSTEM.
Yeah, look at this. The Archons and the High Templar and the Immortals, all of them, they're just feeling so confident. They walk straight up into the natural base. A bunch more drones are falling. Some bios finally hit, but GG is called. HARSTEM has officially tied up this series.
Crazy to think that only 2 games ago, Scarlett was up 2-0 in this series, just 1 game away from clinching this match. But HARSTEM, he has fought back. He has won 2 straight, and potentially a 3rd straight, which will result in, of course, a reverse kill. And that will be kind of heartbreaking, as if you were on Scarlett's shoes, to kind of go up with a solid 2-0 lead, and then all of a sudden you're eliminated.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna lie, Snoopy. I kind of felt like maybe Scarlett was just sort of playing around with HARSTEM with the Lingbane in the first 2 games, because it just felt so. It felt so extra. You know what I mean? It just felt like so flamboyant, so fun, and I don't know. To be fair, that is sort of Scarlett's MO. You know, she's always been very, very fast and loose with her attacks and very aggressive. You know what I mean? But it just felt like in those two games, she felt so confident. And then game 3 and game 4, it felt like a lot of that confidence was lost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame her. She has very good reason to be overconfident and just, flamboyant. Based off of her history, her experience. But sometimes overconfidence can bite you in the behind, and
oh, for sure.
HARSTEM has made her pay these past 2 games. And by the way, these past 2 games were not easy, to say the least.
Oh no. They were hard fought by both players, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, but what is this? We have a Roachborn about to complete. So Scarlett is looking to end this game one way or another. In the, I was gonna call it the ace match, but the 5th match in this best of 5 series. A lot of roaches on the production tab, so this is gonna be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure HARSTEM scouted this. He still has his stalker out, trying to snipe out that overlord, but unbeknownst to him, there are a bunch of units here to snipe off that stalker. So bye stalker. Oh.
Oracle to the rescue. So that stalker is gonna live to tell the tale, at least for now. That nexus does go down, so these Lings are gonna confirm that they have something to chew on in just a little bit. Oh no, it actually looks like the roaches are just going to go directly towards the natural. I like this move a lot. If you're going to go for the kill, why bother with the natural? And the Adept actually leaves the wall? Why did it leave the wall? The roaches get in, they're going to target down the pylon. Oh no, HARSTEM! Does it all end here?
I think pretty much so. I mean, he has no gateways to warp in. Only has one Stargate to work off of. And yeah, Scarlett is just pouring in with more lanes to follow this up. 14 on the production tab. The wall is still open. And yeah, I think this is going to be a really quick game to end our fifth game.
No. That was so unfortunate. Why did the Adept move backwards? I could understand if it were a misplay where the Adept actually moved forward towards the third. Maybe HARSTEM was trying to let out some units, but I didn't see any, at least in that moment. I'm not sure. But that was just so unfortunate because the Roaches could just go on top of the pylon, and then that was it. Wall is down, more lings are streaming in. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this game is over. I think HARSTEM is just... I mean, if I were in his position, I would be so sad right now. GG, well played is called. Scarlett is gonna end up taking this game.